So
Yeah.
I'm curious how you have honed the ability to see the difference between bullshit and like actual trend. Now, is that just like cherry picking survivorship bias? Like there are 12 that you bet on and
Right.
3 of them turned out to be right?
I do
and
very
you're
good,
willing
I
to
do
take
very
those
good scrubbing
risks?
of the
Or
internet
is
of all the
yeah.
other bets.
Or is it like, do you think there's some real skill to taste identification of what is really actually going to work and what's in common in these things?
Yeah, well, first of all, they're across a lot of different sectors is the first thing I'd say. So it's not betting in one vertical. And a lot of the industry is very vertically oriented for a variety of reasons. I don't think it's me. Maybe that's just, but I don't mean it as false humility. I think a lot of these things are the products. People are the products of the culture they come from. It's why I focus so much on startup culture. And you were just talking earlier, Freed, about how at Slack, you were always on time to every single meeting. And that was like the culture that is not the culture you came in with, but is the culture you left with when you left Slack. I think the org teaches things. And look, Spark has historically always been a new market oriented firm, from Oculus to Twitter to Cruise to, we just keep going. Oh, in fact, the majority of the
Tumblr,
the majority of the largest exits for Spark over the years have been at the advent and creation of new markets. And I think there's a couple reasons for that, but the biggest one is literally org design. If you just think about the last 10 years of venture capital, the way that most other firms oriented to a number of startups that were coming out into the world was to grow AUM and then build a services team and then build a partnership that goes from what used to be 7 or 8 people to 30 or 40 people, right? And so, well, what happens if you do that? If you do that, you necessarily need to start dividing territory. You got, 10 managing director, senior people, and then a bunch of GPs below them, and then a bunch of principals, and they all maybe mostly kind of like each other, but they all just got hired in the last couple of years. And so now they got territory. So it's not that you cover enterprise startups, it's that you cover enterprise productivity SaaS startups now, and you go own that vertical. And you don't get social or consumer. You get, now you don't get to consumer, you get consumer social, and that's your alley, and you go run that alley. So how are you going to see a new market if it's not in your territory? That's the first question. Then the second output of this model is, if I'm 80% of the people in that partnership, which is not a managing director, but some mid-level partner, and let's be clear, like most of the partners are junior partners just trying to still earn their stripes no matter what they say on their Twitter account or on their LinkedIn, right? And if I'm trying to get promoted, then to senior partner, what's the fastest way to do that? Well, in the old school of venture, 10, 20 years ago, if you were in the first wave of Benchmark, the only way you got promoted or moved up in the first wave of Sequoia is an exit. Like today's world, things are moving so fast. There's no way I'm waiting 10 years to get a first meaningful exit before I get promoted to senior partner. And the partnership knows that. I'll just move to some other firm. So now I need to find a way to promote you in 2 or 3 years. So what's that? That's markups. We all know that for most firms, that's markups. Okay, so now I need markups. So what's the game I'm playing now? The game I'm playing now is to go get dinners at Cotu and dinners at Tiger and whoever else is going to mark up my next round, figure out what they like and invest in them 6 months earlier. That's the game. It's not long-term invested capital with founders on some crazy mission that will maybe put a dent in the universe. It's, I had a dinner and they seem hot on X, and so I'll invest on it slightly earlier. I get 3 markups this year. I get promoted to GP next year. People are very self-interested. Wasn't it Charlie Munger who was like, show me your incentives and I'll show you your outcome?
I actually just
I don't know,
extend on this.
Sounds like Charlie Munger.
I actually just extend on this, Rand. I wonder, so this model that you're talking about, which is grow AUM, form the services team, I wonder if that actually just creates worse companies too. In the sense that, to our earlier conversation, as having been a customer of those services from multiple firms before, right? Like they actually develop very formulaic approaches to the things they provide services to, and because it's the only way to scale. But if you just even take one of those things like recruiting and hiring, the best hires in recruiting I have ever made in my founder career is because I've done something weird. I've done something like different in that process versus like following, the first do A, first do B, first do C. And so I actually wonder if a downstream consequence of that is of those cultures is you actually creating worse companies as well.